Welcome to the broadcast, my dear old fruits. Another day, another dollar. We get through it, my dears, don't we? This thing called life. We get through it day by day with humour. That's what we always need, isn't it? A dose of humour to get through it. But get through it we do, basketeers together. And I've been told that I've got to smile more. Hello, welcome to the broadcast. I've been told by a viewer, I've been rapped on the knuckles for looking angry and for looking angst-ridden and extremely sort of gelid, if you will, in my countenance. And I've got to be warmer, and I've got to fill you with smiles and sunshine and rainbows and My Little Ponies. Love you bunches, love you bunches. Should we all be really happy? And I'll smile away through the broadcast until you're all sick. Well, more of that later, my dear. I'll respond to that in a moment. And I'll be responding to a few questions. And we're going to be talking about you know who, I'm afraid. Can't avoid it. But we can also talk about some lovely things, such as the 11th birthday of Prince George yesterday. He turned 11 years old, didn't he? And there were well wishes from the Prince and Princess of Wales who said, wishing Prince George a very happy 11th birthday today. And the photograph was taken by Catherine in 2024. I'm sure the conspiracy theorists will be doing all the checks, my dear, to see if he's been retouched and rejigged all over the place. But he was very smart in a white shirt and blazer. Very good, wasn't it? So smart. I'm not so sure about the friendship bracelet. That just errs a little bit towards Uncle Harry. Do you know what I mean, my dear? Love beads, and, I don't know, ganja and friendship bracelets. But he's a little boy, so I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining yet, but in another 10 years I will. So watch it. But it was very smartly turned out. And actually, rather like me, he celebrates his birthday in the second phase of the sun in Cancer. So indeed, I have been enjoying my birthday as well. Well, actually, that's a lie. I didn't do anything for my birthday. I didn't celebrate it this year. I was actually taking part in the celebrations for another friend. Religious celebrations, actually, of a type. But my own birthday was extremely low-key, not exciting at all. And that is largely due to the fact that I cannot indulge in cake or champagne or anything yummy at all, because indeed I am still on my eating regime that I told you about earlier in the year, and I will update you on that very, very briefly later on in the show, because I get lots of questions asking for an update. There's not much to update you on, my dears, but I will go into that later. But I must, before we go on, I must say that I have received a handful of birthday treats throughout this month from a handful of basketeers, and it gives me a real and much appreciated lift, my dears. It really does. You are the tonic to my gin and bitter lemon. You really are. And to be vulgar for a few seconds, as I must, for those of you who ask for an alternative way to send me a tip jar treat other than PayPal, I prefer PayPal. That works for me and my accounting. I can't offer any other ways if you wish to express your appreciation. But I have enabled the super thanks button for 1 week only in the comments section below, or however it's done. I've only ever activated that thanks button once before, I think, which was on another birthday a couple of years ago for 1 week. And that is because viewers don't realise that 30% of that super thanks money goes to Google, and the creator gets 70%. If you're fine with that, then I'm fine with that, my dear. It would behoove me to leave it open all year round, my dear. It would certainly benefit me, but most viewers don't realise that. And also, I've never heard another YouTuber impart that information to their viewers, so viewers don't understand what they're doing when they do that. PayPal, the PayPal fees are only a tenth of that 30%. They're less than 3%, so it's marginal. So I thought that I would be vulgar for a moment and mention that, but if you will excuse the vulgarity, then we can press on. And here's the comment I got complaining about my lack of smiles. Hi, it's River. I'm back. I can't keep it up for long. Christopher, Harini Christopher was the viewer's name. Hi River, I'm tuning into your broadcast after a long time. I just wanted to say, why do you have such an angry, tense facial expression? Earlier, it's not Botox, by the way, in case you're wondering. Someone will accuse me of that next. I just wanted to say, Yes, why do you have an angry, tense facial expression? Earlier, you used to smile and were so charming. Is Meghan Markle affecting you too? Keep smiling, don't be so tense. Well, I shall make a few points in response to your comment, dearie. 1, don't come to my platform uninvited and tell me how to be. Don't do it. It won't wash with me if I want to sit here howling in rage to you day after day after day, throwing bread rolls at the screen. If I want to bend over and lift up my gowns and show you my arsehole, then I shall do so. I shall do just that. And you'll be grateful. Do you understand? And in fact, you wouldn't be the first to be grateful for such an offering. Well, second point, I've never been a smiler. I had never been a... That doesn't mean that I don't smile when I'm with my friends and companions. We spend most of the time hollering and laughing and giggling and smiling, but I'm not a natural smiler. My face doesn't naturally go up. I kind of wish it did sometimes, into that natural hello, always talking and always smiling thing. It's quite nice. Mine doesn't. Some of you know about resting bitch face. I suppose I've got a bit of that, but most of us have that, don't we, in our natural countenance. There are smiles and chuckles to be found in the vast majority of my broadcasts, my dear, but I'm not going to sit here gurning away. There's something narcissistic about it as well when I see it in some people. But depending on the attitude of the broadcast, I will adopt my own attitude to come to you to suit the subject matter, as I'm doing right now, my dear. Third point, smiling and chuckling at an inanimate object, as I'm doing that at the moment, as I record into my phone. It does not come naturally to me, my dear. I've got much better at it over the years, and you know, I can sort of convince and fool myself that I'm talking directly to you now. But you have to remember, I am facing a screen. There's nothing here to react to me, to smile and raise an eyebrow. So those people that can do it, all props to them. But it reminds me actually of a channel that I've been into recently. I thought I would share it with you actually. It's called Homeworthy England. Now there's a Homeworthy International, it's just called Homeworthy, but I watched the one with the English homes on it, Homeworthy England. There are only 8 videos on that particular channel at the moment, but I've really been enjoying them. Every single video, the host or the owner of a house takes you through their house, and it's about interior design, and I know there are a lot of these channels on YouTube that are great. So much information, so much inspiration for those of you that, like me, adore colour and textiles and furnishings. And most of these houses, I mean, some of them are owned by very wealthy people with means beyond one's reach, but a lot of them furnish their homes with a blend of old antiques, stuff from the charity shops and the thrift stores of the kingdom, blended in with high-octane luxury pieces here and there. But it's real inspiration. I really enjoyed it. I only discovered it about a week ago, and I've been through all 8 videos, and I really recommend it if you've got a lazy afternoon with a cup of tea on the go or something, my dear. They all have a different flavour, a different character, but I'm bringing it to you now because one of the ladies on there, elegant lady, Ambry Smiller, in a red gown. You'll see in the thumbnail she has a beautiful, vivid red gown on. Lovely lady, but permanent smile on her face. Part of it, I think, is just the natural makeup of her face. Some people, like Kylie Minogue, they've got a lot of teeth on display, and they can smile their way through everything. So their upper teeth and their gums. That's one of the things that makes it easier for people to smile. But this gal, I tried to actually find a part in the entire hour where she wasn't smiling as she was talking and doing the tour around the home. And I think there were maybe 5 seconds here or there. So some people just do it naturally. I don't. Point number 4, smiley YouTubers annoy the fuck out of me, to be quite honest with you, my dears. I've no wish to emulate them. Number 5, you are tuning in, you say, after a long time away. Well, why are you returning, my dear? Why are you returning? Just to tell me to keep smiling? It's not a fucking pageant, darling. And my name is not Jean Bonnet. Get it? Got it? Good. If you want that cutesy crap, go elsewhere. My shtick, this is point number 6, my shtick is and has always been disgruntled outrage, delivered with high camp irritation and some sarcasm, I suppose, my dear. And someone's going to say, oh, well, sarcasm's the lowest form of wit. Most people who say that don't realise that the second part of that idiom from Oscar Wilde is that it is also the highest form of intelligence. He was being sarcastic when he said that line. Anyway, that is my shtick, my dear, not sunshine and rainbows or love you bunches. My hero is Victor Meldrew, not Meghan Markle. So fuck off. It has been announced that the Invictus Games are going to be returning to the kingdom. Great. For the first time since its inception a decade ago. I've nothing against the games in general, my dear. It's a wonderful, wonderful cause. But back to the kingdom. Why? There are many other nations out there. They've only been through a few. Why did they lose out to Washington, D.C., as they've done these time in the heats? This is going to be Birmingham for 2027. They beat Washington, D.C. in a closely fought bid. Why? I mean, that's a lucky escape, isn't it, Washington, D.C.? You've had a very lucky escape there. Harry said, congratulations to Birmingham, UK, on winning the bid to host the Invictus Games 2027. Your city's strong ties to the armed forces community made it a formidable contender from the very start. Yada, 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 yada. The previous government, the Tory government, they pledged £26 million of funding towards these games to get it off the ground this year. And Canada, as you know, will be hosting next year in 2025. It's a worthwhile event, as I say, but it does pose the question whether or not the Duchess of Sussex will be attending. And the media have already started asking this question. So they're going to have 3 years of will she or won't she be joining her precious Tootsie. And Harry's got to start yammering on about his precious security because, it's such a great big threat. And they're in so much danger because the whole world's talking about them. Because he put a price on his own head for bragging in Spare about his number. No one else did that. Did they, Harry Sussex? Who are you going to blame? The ghost of your late mother for prompting you? Who else did it? The wifey. The ghost of your dead mother through your wifey who channels her spirit. Diana tells me. Let the world know how many you killed because you were being a hero. He hears voices, But he's got choices, and he takes the wrong ones, doesn't he? The worldwide privacy tour continues. And the wife's been spotted. She's been out stuffing her face at an Italian restaurant by the name of Lune. And we've seen her at this restaurant before. She's always there. This time she was with an actress friend, Kimberly Williams Paisley, and she was wearing this fresh ensemble, white and blue, which actually is a nice combination for summer. I don't think it's especially practical at an Italian restaurant, unless they put a bib on her. But that's what she did. But then she wore that ugly centre parting again. Wallis Simpson emerged. Why doesn't she sweep it all back? Just sweep it all back into a high pony. It's quite simple, quite charming. And you won't look like olive oil in the same way. And she had that handbag with her, the Dior Lady D Light handbag that was actually named after her late mother-in-law, Diana. And it has its own special monogram on it. DSS. Isn't it DSS that's the Department of Social Security or something here in the kingdom, where people get benefits from, or used to in days of yore. DSSOS, Duchess of Sussex. Well, it should read ASSOS, shouldn't it, my dear? Ass, meaning actress of Sussex. I think that would be entirely more apt. She paired the look with Chanel ballet flats, and she pirouetted all over town. You are not the balletic kind, Meghan dear. You are not the balletic kind. Give up the pirouettes. You're a can-can girl. Can-can girl down at the Moulin Rouge, aren't you? Showing everybody your stuff. Okay, Taylor Sassoon asks, River, now that Kamala Harris will likely run for the presidency, is it possible that she will deploy Meghan Markle to be her running mate? Oh, you guys, you are naughty. Well, let's look at their background for those who might need a refresher. In 2019, after Meghan complained about negative press, I think she was in South Africa at the time, she was complaining and whining, about this negative press during her pregnancy. And by the way, she would have had to have scoured the international press to find this criticism, scoured it, because everything else was glowing praise for the gal. But she must have been looking in the deepest, darkest corners of internet fora to uncover all of these disparagements. And this was during the time when Kamala Harris was a nominee for the 2020 election. And Kamala Harris re-amplified Meghan's words at this time, saying, "This is incredibly important. We must remember that it's a sign of strength to show emotion. Meghan, we are with you." So she was very supportive of Meghan then. And also Meghan was praised by the administration. President Biden's press secretary from the White House praised Meghan for her courage in 2021. Yes, but with regards to what Kamala said about it being a sign of strength to show emotion, not necessarily. Not necessarily, sometimes, indeed, but it can also be a sign of weakness. In Meghan's case, it can also be a sign of manipulation, of emotional blackmail at work. It is not binary, so I refute the claim. And also, Meghan didn't show emotion. She pulled a sad face and complained. She whinnied, as we say here in the kingdom. Do you say that abroad? Whinny, you whinny? She whinnied and squinnied for no reason. Kamala Harris also posted a clip of the virtual graduation address that Meghan gave in 2020 when she was citing victims of police brutality and violence, from George Floyd to various other characters. Basically, if you watch it, you'll see it was a response to the BLM movement when it was at its height. But she was riding on its coattails, it was quite clear. And Kamala paraphrased Meghan and re-amplified her words, saying, "The only thing wrong is to say nothing. Thank you, Meghan, for this powerful statement." Well, I am not aware of Kamala Harris sharing any further reactions after the debacle of the royal family being abused on Oprah Winfrey, as they were. You might know something. I didn't hear anything since then. And Meghan was also ridiculed for that graduation address, you know. The speech is on YouTube. And if you look at the comment section, it is chock full of disparagement because nobody was buying what she was selling. President Trump, on the other hand, said of the late Queen, "I think they broke her heart." And he said that Harry had been horribly used. He'd been used horribly and pussy whipped. And then Meghan was in conversation with Glo Steinem. In 2020, August 2020, they shared a conversation and they were really excited about having a black woman candidate, namely Kamala, and the visibility that that might entail. Well, fair enough, but that does actually go to illustrate the difference in race relations between the kingdom and the states. It really does. And by the way, it could also point to sex and gender differences in our politics, because our first female prime minister was in 1979, quite some time ago, my dear, and we've already had three. We've had 3 female prime ministers and a couple of queens in the last few centuries, and several queens over time, you know, a great number of queens, but generally speaking, over the last few centuries, we've been under female heads of state. Generally speaking, we have far less of a problem with racism, apart from in 2024, against whites. Meritocracy is what matters, and is what has only mattered here in the kingdom over the past few decades. And an example of that is our former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who reached the heady heights of premiership through his own achievements. And they're already pointing at one of the likely contenders. Well, there are a few people, Robert Jenrick, a few contenders for the leader of the Conservative Party, but one of the very popular ones is Kemi Badenoch. And, you know, he is of Indian, Asian descent, she Nigerian. Neither of them made a great big meal about it. Never made a great big meal about their heritage. They got where they got through hard work, not through a checklist of woke credentials and PC credentials and making a big issue out of it and hullabaloo. Meritocracy. But as for your fear that Meghan could become a running mate of Kamala's, well, I think that would take a miracle. The hour is indeed too late, my dear, for Meghan to make a play for running mate this time round. Her eye would be on a future term. Moreover, Kamala Harris is rumoured to be scouting out a white man to be her running mate for contrast, to broaden her appeal and cover all bases. And the optics of two biracial women of colour, both married to white guys, by the way, might prove uninspiring for her electorate pool. And I'm glad to say that those kind of decisions don't really come into play here in the kingdom when it comes to posts within government. Perhaps over the last 3 or 4 years, since the BLM movement, there's been more sensitivity towards it. But in all honesty, it was not even needed because we had already gotten there, no matter how much the Duke and Duchess try to disparage this kingdom. The evidence is plain to see. The vast majority of kingdomers adhere by the rules of Martin Luther King. Content of character, that is how we judge the individual, on the content of character. If Meghan harbours political ambitions and aspirations, then she is in early campaigning mode. She is a campaigner. She is always campaigning. Always complain, always campaign. That's her saying. She is in reputational damage repair mode at the behest of Ari Emanuel under his tutelage. And she is striving to be hailed as a philanthropist. Yes, really. Royal tours, they're fake royal tours, and a global presence. And Invictus is quite handy for that. Quite handy for that. She's building a network of rich benefactors and fundraising individuals from the donor world. She's shimmying her way through that, isn't she? All those greasy palms and back scratchers. Oh, she fits right on in there. She fits right on in that orgy of disrepute. She's building a base and a coalition and cozying up to senior Dems. Cozying up to them, she is. They were relying on the Obamas, Meghan in particular, to secure endorsements. Yes, she thought that that was going to be a real trump card, if you will. Don't call it that. It's an Obama card. Their trump card no longer exists because that relationship cooled. In fact, it cooled in the wake of her complaints about the royal family because Mishal and Obama adored the late Queen Liz and the late Duke. Adored them. And rightly so. And they've been keeping the Markles at a distance ever since. At least they've got that smarts. So whether gunning for Viceroy or Vice President, their aspirations end at Vice. Miami Vice or Edelweiss is about as far as they are going to get, my dear. Now, do you recall Mishal Hussain, the lady who conducted the engagement interview after Harry and Meghan announced it? Well, in the Netflix cabaret, you might recall that Meghan claimed that the interview was an orchestrated reality show. That whole engagement interview, orchestrated, she said. Orchestrated. She complained about it. And before we go any further, I should let you know that I have heard on good authority that one of their orchestrations or confections was the scene in the Netflix documentary when she says, "Oh, I got a text from Beyonce." Do you remember that one? She says, "Beyonce just texted." Harry says, "Shut up." And he gasps. Gasp. And if you watch it, you will see that he is just hamming it up for the cameras. Meghan says, "Oh, she's just checking in. She wants me to feel safe and protected. She admires and respects my bravery and vulnerability. She thinks I was selected to break generational curses that need to be healed." Totally contrived. Totally contrived. I'm told that yes, Beyonce did text her. It was a genuine text, but not when the cameras were rolling. It was concocted and confected, which happens in reality TV shows. I'm not saying it's unusual, but it sticks in the craw, doesn't it? When they are accusing others of orchestrating and not being authentic and putting on a show, they're doing the same thing. and laughing at everybody else in the process. Totally contrived. She was using Beyonce's private praise to enhance her public appeal and her public profile and her public reputation. But we aren't all dupids. And I don't know what Beyonce's been taking or smoking or been told. There's no doubt that she is a fantastically talented woman, and I've enjoyed a great deal of her career. I really think that she is a powerhouse performer, but she lost me when she came out with that drivel. I mean, really, as if God sent her on some mission to undo generational misery or whatever it is. Don't pee on my leg and tell me that it's raining Beyonce love. You've got some problems. But back to Mishal Hussain. A senior royal aide said that Meghan also complained that Mishal was not warm enough, not empathetic enough to be the choice of host for that interview. And she said on Netflix we weren't allowed to tell our story. All about their story, isn't it? The clue is in that word. Story. Storyteller, as my great-grandmother used to say. Storyteller. Couldn't get one past her. And she would have had the measure of you, Meghan Markle. Mishal Hussain is known for her mild manners, but even she has told Saga magazine this week, when the Duchess of Sussex said that my engagement interview with her and Harry was an orchestrated reality show, I didn't know what to make of it. They seemed to have thought through what their new lives would be like and what marriage would mean for her life in particular. There was nothing that pointed to what would happen. It was two people who were full of joy in each other and life. And previously she told us on the Today programme, she said recollections may vary. But my recollection is definitely very much asked to do an interview and do said interview. So another one. Recollections may vary. And Lord Hall, who at the time was the BBC's Director General, rejected the criticism that the Markles gave, said that it was simply untrue to suggest that the talk was staged. I mean, what, they probably set up a few lights like Thomas Senior used to do, set up a few lights, make arrangements, make him a cup of tea, and say action. What, is that really supposed to be an orchestration? It's a royal wedding announcement. What do you expect, darlings? They could say whatever they wanted to say. Nothing's ever stopped them from doing so in any other circumstance, has it? And also, both Harry and Meghan say in the interview that William and Catherine had been great. They said Catherine was absolutely, what have I written? Absolutely charming. Amazing. Amazing. She was absolutely amazing and wonderful. And they said it about William as well. I can't read my writing, dear, but they said that they were wonderful. You saw the interview. Said that they were absolutely splendiferous. And then backtracked and called them all kinds of names under the sun in the spare. So this was another device from Liz Garbus, or Liz Garbage, and her directorship. And how they project is what rankles, isn't it, my dear, as they craft and orchestrate. And another question from Bernie, who I call Dame Detty. She has been kind enough to send a few tips over the years, actually. Over 3 years. So hello, Dame Detty, my dear. She's Bernadette, but I like Detty. I give everybody a nickname. Some people love it, some people absolutely loathe it. One of my sisters cannot bear the way that I transform her name into a million other names. I've stopped it these days. She could be quite scary. That's just something I naturally do. But anyway, Bernie says, River, I was wondering if you're still on the carnivore diet. I was inspired by you and went carnivore at the end of January and have seen great results. Well, I'm thrilled that you've had great results, but I think you're very naughty to say you're inspired by me, because I did. I made sure to caveat and say I'm not recommending the carnivore diet. I said that I'm not enjoying it, that I'm only doing it out of desperation, and I'm just doing it to tell you what I'm doing, but I'm not recommending it. But you know that, my dear. But you among many people came to tell me exactly the same, that you've had wonderful successes doing this carnivore diet thing that I mentioned I was going to try out for 90 days to heal an issue that I'm experiencing. And I'm refusing to name the issue because, one, I don't like speaking these things into existence, I just don't like doing it energetically, publicly. It's a reserve that I have. Secondly, I don't want people copycatting me to try and resolve the same issue in the same way. I take the responsibility very seriously, and I can't think of a thirdly. But nevertheless, another comment I got was from Maria Bengoechea, something like that, Bengoechea. Thanks to you, I've been doing the carnivore diet for 95 days. Many of my ailments have gone, including the ones I did not know I had. I have lost 10 kilos and went down to a smaller size. Well, yes, I wasn't doing it for weight loss at all. I've always loved my weight. I'm naturally slim. So some people didn't understand this and were like, oh, you've lost weight, wonderful. Or, oh, you've lost weight, it looks terrible. You put some on, you've lost some here and there. It was never to do with weight. I don't care whether I lose or gain a few pounds either side. It was to do with healing an issue. I'm not sick, I'm not unwell, mentally or physically. I just have I'm going to be vague and call it an issue. I just have an issue which is extremely debilitating, and I will do anything it takes to try and get rid of it. And the carnivore diet is one of the only things that has provided a relief for some people. So I was going to try it out for 90 days. And for me, it's different for everybody that tries the carnivore diet, how strictly they do it or not. Some people just up their meat intake and still continue eating everything else. For me, I have only eaten meat, butter, salt, and I have only drunk water for 7 months. Yes, from January until today. That is all I have eaten. And no exceptions, no vegetables, no plants, no seeds, no grains, no pulses, no sauces, no pepper even. Only, I think off the top of my head, those 4 ingredients, apart from eggs for the first couple of months. I included eggs and I think a little bit of dairy. But after March, I think perhaps after March, it's only been the same meal twice a day, which is ground beef. We call it mincemeat here in the kingdom. Mincemeat mixed in with chicken. I do it as a sort of trail mix with butter. That's it twice a day, with salmon, a fillet of poached salmon once a day. And I also add some electrolytes to my water of sodium, magnesium and potassium. I am not healed. I have not healed the issue. I was about to give up quite recently, and I sent off my bloods. You can get these home delivery blood test kits. Well, I did it back in January, just before I started, and I shared some of the results with you back then to let you know that I was in very good health blood-wise. And I want to compare the results now, 7 months down the line. I haven't received the test results back yet. Of course, I'm expecting my cholesterol to be very high now because I've only been eating meat. But within the carnivore diet community, they don't share the same fears about high cholesterol that other people have. But just after I sent the blood samples back, I was ready to start gradually introducing my regular diet, my regular routine, because I wasn't having the results that I'd hoped for. I began experiencing quite an improvement, and I'm still experiencing it. And I'm hoping with all my heart that it's not a fluke. I think that it might just be a fluke. I remain slightly hopeful, but not entirely convinced, but there has been a diminishing of the symptoms. I would say sometimes over 50% improvement in the symptoms. So because I'm so far in, this is the thing, my dear, I'm only going to try this once in my life. I cannot wait to get back to regular food, but there's no point me going so far, giving up, then deciding, oh, I'm going to have to try this again because it's the only thing that people say works. So I'm having to see it through, and I have no regrets about that. It has been very, very tough. Just as I told you in my broadcast about this, I said it was joyless. I hate it, I can't bear it, and it probably won't work. So I was always aware of that. It has been very tough, and it deprives one of a lot of the joys of life. Some people thrive on this diet, but I've got to say, a lot of the people, and lots of you that have told me about the successes you've had, a lot of people had serious health problems, and a lot of people who are overweight really benefit from this diet because the weight just drops off of you. In the first month I lost 2.5 stone. I think there's how many pounds in a stone? 14 pounds, I think. I lost 2.5 stone in less than a month. I think in about 2.5 weeks. And yes, I did look awful, as some of you told me. And, well, some of you still tell me that. But it's not about vanity, I'm afraid, when one is desperate to heal oneself. One has to do what one has to do, as responsibly as one can. So it has not been a raving success for me until the last few weeks. And people do say, you know, this is the trouble. Healing, there's no time. No one offers a special time to say, well, you'll be fine in 3 months, you'll be fine in 3 years. No one knows. All our bodies respond differently, don't they? Chemically. So I could have given up at 6 months, but if I'd have carried on till 9 months, I might have experienced healing. Do you know what I mean? So I will say that I don't want it to go on for an entire year. I don't want to go through the Christmas season on this diet. I want to be back doing what I am. So if I had to hazard a guess, then I will say that I will probably draw things to a close October, November time. If I continue to see the improvements that I've seen over the past couple of weeks and my issue keeps diminishing and diminishing, then perhaps I will keep it up for longer. But it's certainly not permanent. But as I expected, and as I say, I hate it. I will come off of it as soon as I feel is the right time. It's joyless. But if I can either heal my particular issue or improve the symptoms significantly, as it feels that they have been improved at the moment, then it is totally worth it. It is totally worth it. So that's a little update for you. I kindly ask that you do not ask me for any further updates, please. If and when there is anything of interest to say, then I'll say it, which could be in a few months, could be in a couple of years, but if there's anything I want to say, I will say it. So don't prompt me, if you please. But that's enough whinnying from me. I'll get back to smiling and saying thank you very much for joining me, my dears. I appreciate your company. I appreciate your birthday wishes recently, and I look forward to seeing you in the next broadcast. Have a nice evening, my dears. Take care, won't you? Ta-ra and toodle pip. Channel the royal spirit.